Breathe deeply now. Inhale, hold for a moment, exhale slowly. Nothing needs to be solved here. You don't need to improve. Just stay. If your mind is still racing, that's okay. Enter anyway. You wake up tired, and it's not your body. It's something denser, quieter. Even before opening your eyes, your mind is already full. Stacked thoughts, invisible obligations, nameless demands. And at some point, someone, maybe even you, called this laziness. But laziness doesn't weigh like this. Laziness doesn't tighten the chest. Laziness doesn't steal your breath before the day begins. Come back with me for a moment. Notice how this tiredness doesn't come from doing, but from thinking without rest. There was a time when things flowed. Maybe not perfectly, but they were possible. Today, even small decisions exhaust you. Replying to a message, starting a task, choosing where to begin. It's not a lack of will, it's excess. Your mind didn't stop even when you slept. It just changed scenery. Maybe now you realize the problem was never discipline, it was accumulation. Unresolved thoughts, other people's expectations, inner demands. A full mind doesn't move, it just tries to survive. Breathe again, without trying to fix anything. There is a kind of exhaustion that comes from trying to seem normal. You smile, do the bare minimum, keep going. But inside, something is already collapsing in silence. There was no explosion, no drama, just continuous wear. Like a rope stretched too tight, that doesn't break, it just loses elasticity. Maybe now you remember how many times you forced yourself to continue, when what you truly needed was to stop on the inside. This is not weakness, it is prolonged overload. You look around and everyone seems to be managing. They produce, they move forward, they plan. And then the judgment comes. Why is it so hard for me? But no one sees what you carry. Not even you see it all. Comparison is a distorted lens used by exhausted minds. Your slowness is not failure, it is a request for relief. An overloaded mind doesn't need pressure, it needs space. There comes a point when tiredness stops being resistance and becomes surrender. Not giving up, surrender. You stop fighting your own rhythm, even if only for a few seconds. And in that interval, something softens. Maybe now you feel that you don't need to fix yourself, just decompress. This is not the end of the line. It is the moment before the real beginning. You finally stop, and you expect relief to come. But it doesn't. What appears first is a strange emptiness. A silence that doesn't relax, it presses. Because while you were running, there was no time to feel. Now, there is. Old thoughts resurface, postponed questions, sensations that remained suspended in the body. Maybe now you realize that stopping is not immediate rest. It is an encounter. And even if your mind tries to escape, nothing wrong is happening here. This is excess coming out of hiding. There is a kind of silence that is not peace. It is the absence of distraction. It exposes what was muffled by constant noise. You may feel a slight tightness, or restlessness without a name, or simply a deeper fatigue. Come back with me for a moment. Don't try to fill this silence. Don't try to understand it. An overloaded mind first needs to empty, not rush toward a solution. This silence is not an enemy. It is neutral territory. Out of nowhere, a memory, then another. They are not necessarily traumas, they are fragments. Moments when you demanded too much of yourself. Days when you ignored your own limits. Choices made in survival mode. These memories don't come to hurt. They come because now there is space. Maybe you feel the urge to distract yourself. That's natural. But even if your mind drifts away now, something in you knows. These images are just passing. They don't ask for analysis. They ask for gentle presence. At some point, without announcement, an inner recognition arises. I endured more than seemed possible. Not as pride, as acknowledgement. You realize you didn't freeze because of incapacity, but because of continuous overload. This recognition is not rational. It happens in the body. The shoulders release a little. The breath drops. The inner rhythm slows. Maybe now you feel that you don't need to blame yourself so much. And that changes everything, even if externally nothing has changed yet. It's subtle, almost imperceptible. A different thought appears, not as a solution, but as space. What if I'm not the problem? This question doesn't demand an answer. It simply opens a crack. Through that crack, air enters. Just a little, but enough. Come back with me one more time. Notice that this initial lightness doesn't come from doing more, but from stopping the internal attack. When everything seemed motionless, something breathed. It doesn't arrive as a clear sentence. It arrives as relief. A feeling that something has finally stopped pushing from the inside. You didn't solve anything. You didn't organize your life, but the mind slowed down enough to hear itself. Maybe now you realize clarity is not born from effort. It emerges when the noise ceases. And even if your mind has wandered far, there is something here recognizing this new space. It is simple and real. It's not rehearsed gratitude. It's not a mental list. It's a silent recognition of still being here. Despite everything, despite the weight, you feel a strange lightness in not having to prove yourself right now. Come back with me for a moment. This gratitude doesn't ask for celebration. It asks for continuity. It says, if I made it this far, I can breathe a little longer. And that is enough. It's not religion. It's not a defined belief. It's the perception that there is a flow that doesn't depend on your constant control. Something sustains the movement of life even when you stop. Maybe now you feel that you are not alone in this experience, even if no one is by your side. This sensation doesn't demand interpretation. It simply settles in. And as it settles, it removes an old weight, the need to handle everything alone. Externally, nothing has changed, but inside, the tone is different. Less urgency, less self-criticism, more space between one thought and another. It is in this interval that something reorganizes itself. Not like magic, as a natural consequence. The mind, less pressured, begins to cooperate with reality instead of fighting against it. Maybe now you realize that this silent shift is the true beginning. For a long time, thinking about money meant tension. Invisible spreadsheets in the mind, circular worries, fear of the future. But with the mind less congested, the subject changes its inner place. It doesn't disappear, it decompresses. You begin to perceive that financial decisions require clarity, not panic. And without noticing, your relationship with value, time, and energy becomes more lucid. Nothing forced, nothing spoken out loud. The vibration changes first. The effects come later. In that almost invisible gesture, everything began to move. You don't wake up different from one day to the next. Nothing spectacular happens. But there is a fine adjustment, as if the world is no longer working against you. The slowed inner rhythm begins to align with the outer one. You do one thing at a time, without heroics, without extra self-pressure. And curiously, things begin to flow better this way. Maybe now you realize it wasn't a lack of action, it was excess mental friction. With less noise, you begin to see where it truly makes sense to invest your energy. Some tasks lose importance. Others reveal themselves as essential. You no longer act out of blind obligation. You act out of inner coherence. That saves time, saves wear and tear, saves money. Because clearer decisions prevent reactive choices. And even if your mind drifts now, something in you knows this clarity is a valuable resource. Money begins to respond to inner space, not as a reward, not as a miracle, but as a consequence. When the mind is no longer in constant alert, you notice opportunities that once went unseen. Conversations become more productive, ideas mature, financial movements become less impulsive. You begin to relate to money from presence, not from fear. And that changes everything. It's not euphoria, it's stability. A sense that life was never blocked, it was only waiting for space. You feel you can move forward without violating yourself internally. The future no longer feels like a burden. It feels like a possible field. Come back with me for a moment. Notice how this state doesn't require effort to be sustained. It holds itself through relief. Gratitude now is calm, almost imperceptible. It doesn't ask for applause. It shows itself in gentler choices towards yourself. You no longer call yourself lazy. You no longer reduce yourself to easy labels. You understand what happened, and that understanding closes an old cycle. You don't need to tell anyone. You don't need to justify it. Real transformation is discreet. It appears in how you start your day, in how you pause before deciding, in how you respect your own limits. And curiously, the more you respect your rhythm, the more life cooperates. An overloaded mind can only survive. A decompressed mind can create. Create paths, create income, create alternatives. Without rush, without collapse. Maybe now you realize you didn't need extra motivation. You needed inner space. Nothing needs to be held by force. This state integrates into your daily life. You enter it and exit it naturally. And even when fatigue returns, because it does return, you will know how to recognize it before overload. This is inner maturity. This is real freedom. Breathe once more. Without intention, without a goal. Just breathe. You were not lazy. You were carrying too much weight for too long. And now, something in you knows how to release before breaking. Maybe the question is not, what do I need to do now? But, what can I stop carrying?